Hello, everyone. Welcome to TSAM Digital. My name is Anna, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with Dominic Flanagan. He is the Chief Development Officer for SS&C Technologies. Welcome, Dominic.
Hi, Anna. How are you? I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much. It's really nice to have you here, Dominic. So before we kick things off today, I was wondering if you would like to give us a little bit of an introduction and to talk about the work that you do.
Yeah, okay. I work for SS&C Technologies, and that's a global provider of services and software for the financial services and healthcare industries. We serve thousands of organizations globally. About 27,000 people employed in our organization. So substantial organization. And within SS&C, there are separate divisions. And I'm Chief Development Officer for the Institutional and Investment Management division at SS&C. And so we provide services and solutions to various kinds of financial institutions. We deliver products and services to cover front to back office needs for institutional asset managers, wealth managers, asset owners, and banks and other kinds of institutions like that. And in my role, I'm responsible for the architecture, the technology platform, the product development, and product delivery of products and services into those kinds of firms.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. So today we wanted to talk about investment operations, and I wanted to kick off with asking you, what are the key challenges facing asset managers in terms of their investment operations?
Yes, good question, Anna. So, in our division, as I've described it, we've got a really good team of people who are experts in the industry and experts in providing solutions to help our customers manage their investment operations. And, over the years, we've learned a lot from the products and services we have in the market, and we learn more and more every day as we work hand in hand with our customers globally. And, there's a number of issues involved, I think, but if I think of one of the key themes we continually hear from our clients is the challenge of managing operations as a cohesive end-to-end process across front, middle, and back office, but trying to do that with what are really disparate technologies that are different products and services, often from different vendors that are put together and integrated together into a platform to try and support that full front, middle, back office workflow. And that brings a lot of challenges. That core sort of element of that disparate set of technologies brings a lot of challenges. The main one we hear about is just the management of data underneath those systems. So, each system you have, if you've got a system for doing portfolio management, and one for doing trading, one for doing accounting, maybe one for performance attribution, one for reporting, that would be not unusual from what we see in our customer base. And each one of those products and services has its own database, its own data structure. And as you try to work across the whole workflow, there's a constant movement of data, and that brings some issues. There's a lot of data duplication. So there's common elements you need in all those things I mentioned, like a definition of the accounts, portfolios, transactions or trades, valuations, the data that's calculated within the systems. And each system needs that data, and so each system takes a copy of that data, and there's constant movement of data between systems. And that brings the burden then of always, firms always asking the question, is the data the same in each of those systems? Is the valuation I see in my performance system on which I'm about to calculate returns, is that the same as the valuation in my accounting system, in my ABAR, my accounting book of records? And so that's a real challenge. There's constant reconciliation going on, and then it's very time consuming and costly process. And the other issue then with the data duplication and spreading the data into multiple systems is the reporting challenge or analytics processing you want to do. We want to bring that data back together, so the data consolidation. So I think that's a real issue, that duplication of data across those systems that they require. And a couple of other themes that come from that, like it's, when we've multiple versions of separate products, it's very difficult to stay current on each product. And it's very difficult to have the business agility to be able to move very quickly to take changes into the system, because it usually affects all the other integrated systems in the system, the overall system. So that's a real challenge and restricts business agility. And the other one I'd point out would be, the difficulty in scaling the end-to-end business process. To really ramp up, especially for peak loads. it's really difficult to take those disparate systems and get all of them in sync and ramp all of them up at one time, and then importantly be able to ramp them back down for cost efficiency. So I'd say there are some of the key things, the key theme being that, there are disparate technologies, various products and systems brought together and integrated together, and they bring some difficulties in terms of data movement, business agility, and the ability to scale.
This is really interesting. So actually, in relation to this, what modern technologies should asset managers leverage to address challenges?
That's a really good way to frame the question, Anna, because, the question is not so much what interesting new technologies are out there, because there's always a steady flow of new innovative technologies coming our way. But the key question, as you've asked it, is how can we leverage it? What are the key technologies that really bring business benefit in our industry? And when I think about that, I think about which are the technologies that can, give us better than a small incremental step in business benefit, which are the ones that can really drive a substantial step forward for the business and for the industry. And, when I think about that, then I think about, that large leap. It typically can't be done with a single technology. I think it's taking a cohesive view of a set of new technologies and bringing them together in a way that will have that large impact. And when I think of that, then the core solution I think about in terms of the challenges we've talked about is, a microservice architecture. So microservice is a new model of an architecture approach that delivers functionality in separate deployable services. And yet it's a really important component in tackling those challenges. And because in this microservice model, each service is designed to have a small footprint, as a distinct business benefit that it provides. And all these set of microservices, all of them interoperate with each other over industry standard APIs. And so you can bring them together like small building blocks that can build a cohesive platform, rather than the model of sort of having very large blocks or a large block trying to do everything in the whole workflow. And, underneath that microservice model, then, one of the important things or defining features of a microservice is that each microservice owns its own data. So any request to add data or change data or query that data flow through the microservice that owns it. And that's really important in terms of tackling those data issues I talk about. And, when you think about, when I bring those two elements together, having small footprints of functionality in separately deployable services, along with the clear ownership of data, so there's only one version of that data ever, that really does begin to resolve a lot of those challenges. With the microservice approach, we look to replace some of those larger disparate systems with this small set of building blocks. And, when we apply that principle in our industry, it's, and think about an overall end-to-end workflow. We may have those big blocks, big service blocks that do portfolio management, trading, accounting, and calculate performance and attribution, risk statistics, client reporting, and so on. That there are many of them. And in that model, each of them own their own data set. They own the things like accounts, portfolios, securities, the common things they all need. So that brings that duplication of data. When we move to this microservice model, now we have a service, say, that manages securities. We don't have a replication of the security data across systems. All the other services will interact with that securities service and get all the data it needs from there. Similarly, there would be a service for performance, say an attribution that calculates the returns, and it requests the data it needs from other systems. So we build this mesh of microservices that interact with each other, so there's no movement of data anymore. There's no duplication of data in that end-to-end process. And that eliminates the need for all of the reconciliation of data and all that goes with that. So we really do tackle in that the combination of microservices and clean ownership of data and one version of the data. We really tackle some of the key challenges. The other thing a microservice model brings us is building it in the cloud environment, so cloud native microservices. When we layer a container strategy on top of that, so now we're bringing together, as I said, a number of technologies, microservices, cloud native model, and now container strategy. When we layer that onto the microservice approach, we can scale each service independently in a cloud environment and do it very efficiently. So we can configure the system to auto scale. It's called auto scaling of services. And, so what that means is the system is sitting there, and as a peak load hits the system or any one service, we ramp up the ability of that service to respond. Essentially, multiple containers of that service, they can respond to the peak load. So you don't have to increase the whole capacity for the whole system just for that service. And that's a very effective way to manage the cost. And then when that peak passed, let's say it was a large load of transaction processing that had to happen. When that peak is done, the transaction service will ramp up to handle it, ramp back down. And then we'll see on an event-driven model that maybe that requires us to recalculate valuations for the accounts or to recalculate performance. And those services could ramp up and similarly ramp down. So very efficient use of resources, and then makes it very cost-effective to scale, but also means you scale seamlessly. There's not, wait time. You don't have to order new equipment, build new systems, deploy new software. The software can auto scale to handle the load as it needs. And so that's a really important piece. And one more I'll mention then, as we bring together that microservice and container strategy model, it really transforms the deployment model for functionality in our business. And this is a real change from how traditional systems work. The microservices are all independent from each other. So now we can deploy any one of them, which is a small footprint of functionality usually. We can deploy that into the overall system without disrupting any of the other services. And that's a major change, because when we have a large system, and we need to make a change to the system in some way, maybe fix a defect, maybe add new functionality, the whole system has to be deployed, and it's very time consuming and difficult process. When we deal with microservices, we can make a change in one microservice and deploy just that one service. And we can do that with zero downtime, no disruption to the business. And we're doing that with some of our systems now, where we deploy into live running environments, even trading environments, and without disruption to the system. And that's really important. It's important in allowing a business to be agile, to get new functionality when it's available, to be able to get fixes to defects when they're available. And really importantly, in the sort of world we live in with cybersecurity threats ever present, the ability to respond to those threats really fast, I think is really important. So that kind of model of saying there's a set of technologies or structures out there like microservices, cloud native models, container strategy, bringing those things together can really take on the challenges we talked about above.
And how does the SS&C Institutional and Investment Management team help asset managers take advantage of those technologies?
Well, in our institutional and investment management division, as I mentioned, we've been providing products and services into the industry for many years. And so what we've done over the last few years is we brought together all that expertise. We have people who are really skilled in this business, and brought all their experience and learning to bear in designing a new platform. It's a platform we call Aloha. And that incorporates the principles I've mentioned above. It's a completely new build of functionality, and that allows us to build from the ground up a cloud-based microservices architecture that kind of, in addition to bringing together all the good functionality we've had in our other products and services, it really unleashes the benefits of that microservice platform. And so, Aloha is a microservice platform, and it's fully functional IBOR and an investment book of records, and ABOR, accounting book of records. So it runs across IBOR and ABOR to support full front to back operational workflow. So from, front office perspective, everything an advisor, portfolio manager might need, model management, model generation, investment analytics, through trading needs into post-trade activity, position keeping and investment accounting on into GL, NAV, unit pricing. We have services that supply all of those things within our platform. And, we have things for our services for performance and attribution, risk, client communications. All of those are brought together in an architecture, as I described above, with separate services that, can now run over a unified data model. So within that set of functionality, we're not moving data from our trading system to our accounting system to our performance reporting system. The data is uniquely owned by the services, and there's one version of that data. So that unified data model underneath the whole end-to-end process is really important. The deployment model for us to be able to deploy and respond to security threats really quickly, to deliver new functionality really quickly, is inherent in that set of services. And in addition to some of those things, since we're building new software from the ground up, we're able to take advantage of some of the other newer technologies I didn't mention. Artificial intelligence, machine learning models. To leverage those technologies well in a way that applies a good business effect in our industry. You really need to be building new services. It's difficult to sort of bolt on, if I could say that, or add on to existing systems an artificial intelligence model, because it starts with the data. And when we built our data model, we built it to handle both structured and unstructured data, which is core to how you run good machine learning models. And so we were beginning to incorporate and infuse AI and machine learning into the system, and do it in a way that's really meaningful, to the business. We have models that track user activity and system activity. We look for repetitive patterns and can generate automated workflows to execute those patterns. We can look for patterns of activity that lead to errors and issues in the system, and alert head of operations on that, or if we can, automate and fix to it. So there's a lot of good things we can build in once we're building from the ground up in that kind of microservice architecture. And so we've learned a lot over the years about the business. Our products and services are out there. We've learned what works well for our clients, what doesn't, and we've incorporated all of that into this new platform. And then we kind of layered on what we're talking about here, and we're layered on the advantages of leveraging new technology and doing things differently, not just executing the functionality that's needed for the business, but doing it in a way that's smarter, that really brings us forward in the industry and makes operations more efficient, and helps us all run our businesses more effectively.
This is really wonderful, Dominic. I had such a great time speaking with you today, and I know that our community as well appreciates your insight and knowledge. So thank you very much for sharing. We also look forward to seeing you again soon and hearing from you.
That's great. Thank you for having me, Anna. This was great. Thank you very much.